You can scan the QR code for the handout. So there's just some notes there for you, and we can go ahead and get started. Stress, there's like a mental, emotional, and the physiological aspect to it. And I'll talk a little bit more about the physiological part of it. And mentally, it's like outside noise, looming deadlines, like questions about control for situations that are happening around us. And also just things that kind of can nag at you in the background, that produces like a stress-like reaction. And that can be anything from your screens or the news or expecting like an email. And so on that sort of level, stress kind of varies from person to person. And I'll get into like what's happening in the body too. Okay, perfect. So we have breathing exercises, exercises, journaling, getting out in nature, doing walking, doing yoga. Awesome. So we will talk more about all of these options and maybe some new ones. A message in the chat, writing tasks down and assigning them a specific block of time each week. Yes, time blocking definitely reduces stress and with helping to be more realistic about what you can accomplish. Stress has a mental and emotional component, but it's not all in your head. It's also a physiological process too. So what happens is that your amygdala in the brain is your emotional center. And when it's overactivated, it will also activate the HPA axis, which is the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. And at the tail end of that, stress hormones are released. So cortisol, epinephrine, which is also known as adrenaline, and norepinephrine, um, all get released into the bloodstream. So they touch about every organ system in the body and does things like increase heart rate and breathing rate, but also mobilizes energy like blood sugar and blood lipid levels for that fight or flight response to get your body moving. But it can also increase inflammation in the body as well as affect your immunity as well. So you might feel like you're getting sick more often. It might be a little bit harder to recover from that. Or your immune system might be so suppressed that you don't get sick until everything resolves, and then maybe you get pretty sick afterwards. But we'll talk about different ways to kind of alleviate and attenuate those responses. And then on an emotional, mental level, it can impact your sleep, which is directly associated with stress and your mood, but also motivation to do certain healthy habits and things to help you feel good, and also cognitive functioning. So maybe feeling brain fog, a little bit irritable, your focus might be a little bit taken away. But as a society, we often are asked, like, how are you doing? And the automatic response is, I'm doing good, everything's fine. But there's like nagging stress that we're all carrying on our backs. And so we'll talk about how to address that specifically, but also talk about how we can incorporate that into our days and our conversations. So stress is highly individual, and what causes you stress may not cause stress in someone else. And you're coming from all different places, your experiences are personal to you. How you might react or respond to a situation is highly personal, as well as the tools and the resources that you have available to take care of yourself and to tap into where you need help. So, in building a stress management routine and adding things into your day-to-day life, just meet yourself where you're at. We'll have a lot of different ideas, and some of them will sound really good to set aside like 30 minutes every day to take care of. But if you need to scale that back and that's too big of a chunk of time, that's totally fine. You can maybe do 1 minute, but it's that idea of meeting yourself where you're at and seeing what fits. So, in regards to taking the next steps, how you perceive your situation is really impactful. So it's this difference between eustress and distress, whereas eustress is like it's stressful, but you believe that you're capable, you have the tools and resources available to solve the problem. Maybe you're excited about the project and something that's pretty easy for you to follow through. Whereas distress, there might be more of this feeling of a lack of control. Maybe you're unsure about where to go. And being able to shift distress into a little bit more of a eustress sort of perception can really help empower your mind to take positive steps forward. So, what do I mean about control? There are things that you can control, things that you can do, and then other things that you just can't affect. In control, you can control the pause that you take, maybe take a beat before reacting and instead shifting that into an intentional response. As far as like projects go, your effort and preparation that you put into it, and also your boundaries. But if your boundaries are not super solid or you're not used to establishing them, this is a skill that you can develop and grow too. And as we practice these things, they get easier. Also, your thoughts and self-talk. This is another really hard one, but in practicing these and increasing your mindfulness around it, um, being able to pause and ask, is this a thought that's helpful, can really help to ease you out of a negative spiral. Then for the things that you can control or can influence, those are things that you would want to take action for. So problem solving, whatever it is, but not necessarily solving the whole problem, but looking at the next steps. It's a lot more manageable. And if you plan everything out, chances are something's going to change anyway. Then asking for help if this is an option, and that can be a really empowering idea. And even though that we're in a space with very highly motivated women, we like doing things above and beyond to the best of our ability. But there are things that we just don't necessarily like have to do on our own. I'll share like if I am stressed and I don't necessarily need to fold the towels at home, even though I really like to fold them in a specific way so they fit in the closet just so, is it still getting done if someone else does it? And the answer is yes. It might feel a little weird, but as you get used to it, like all of these things, they get easier. And then interrupting unhelpful thoughts and catching yourself before things start to spiral. Things that are outside of your control, other people, you can't dictate what they think. You can't tell them what to do, the actions that they'll take, the things that they'll say, decisions. And then the past, sometimes thinking about things that happen and what we would like to make different, not constructive. It can't change, but we can learn from that and move forward. And then every future outcome, we can take action on next steps, but sometimes things change. The hard part is accepting and releasing what you can't control. Easier said than done, and we'll talk a little bit more to that process. And now we have practicing flexibility, important not only for our bodies, but also for our minds. Being able to shift from a state of stress more into a state of control and being able to adapt mentally. So studies show that the more specific we can get about naming our internal experience and our feelings, the more efficiently and effectively we can work through that and start to move on and invite more positive feelings in. So in this bottom right corner here is a feelings wheel. And I know it's not the full thing, but I'll send it out in the resources. But you would start in the middle and then work your way out to the outer rings. And at each outer ring, it gets a little bit more specific. So feeling fearful is a really like easy feeling. It's very broad, however, but being able to say like, oh, I'm feeling anxious, and more specifically like worried about a project coming up, a deadline, waiting on feedback on grants to fuel our research. Being able to identify that can help you take the next steps. But sometimes we can get really stuck in the future, wondering what's going to happen. Is this a grant that's going to get approved? But as those things happen, sometimes you just like need to let that have space and bring your mind back to the present and ask yourself what's happening right now in the present moment. Then reframing negative thoughts and challenging them in such a way where you notice that things might start to spiral or ruminate, and take notice and ask yourself, these negative thoughts, what if I look at them in a way where I can identify something positive? Is there something that I can learn with this? And how can I grow as a person? And that can help you take next steps forward. But there are a lot of things going on in the world right now, at work, in our communities, and sometimes you just need to worry. Like the thoughts are going to be there, and without allowing time to process them, sometimes scheduling time to worry can be really helpful. So you're defining an amount of time to kind of let your mind wander about it, but it also gives you a deadline to then transition into your next task, the next thing on your list. And for lowering the bar, what I mean by that is lowering expectations for yourself and maybe for other people, and not in a negative sort of way, identifying what doesn't have to be perfect or 100%, because there are some things that we absolutely need to devote ourselves to, but not everything needs to have that same level of care and attention. And thinking about it in the frame of 80% can be enough. And then validating your experience, acknowledging that things are hard. We're not trying to pretend that things are not difficult, but that you'll be able to figure it out. This is really capitalizing on the process of neuroplasticity. So as you're taking note of when you're experiencing joy or gratitude or appreciation, keeping in mind the situation that kind of inspired those feelings, and also looking for new ways to bring that more into your life. Yeah, why don't we go around and share things that you are appreciative of? What's one thing that you're grateful for? Having class at 8 in the morning is very challenging, but taking that opportunity to appreciate the morning sun and the beautiful campus. Yeah, recognizing the privileges and appreciating where we are. I love that. Thanks for sharing. Other ideas? Making lists. This can be a physical list, this can be a mental list, but listing out all the things that you're grateful for, journaling, gratitude journaling, but also taking note of the good things that happened to you today. So good things happen, it's really easy to identify that, but then take that perception on towards yourself and your experiences. Good things happen to you as well. And also things that you did well today. So sometimes it could be hard to recognize and appreciate the things that we're good at too. It's always nice to hear from someone else like, oh, you're so good at lecturing, you're so good at grant writing and being there for students, what have you. But recognize that for yourself too. And then sometimes we just need to let the body process our feelings, let out negativity. Again, using that feelings wheel to acknowledge what you are feeling. Having that mental acknowledgement is the first step in letting your body process whatever is going on. So, some ways to do that: brain dump. And if you are not familiar, you can set aside 5 minutes, 10 minutes, write it in a journal, on your notes app, record a voice memo, but letting everything out in a stream of consciousness onto whatever medium you choose, and without editing, just letting go of everything that's filling your mind. So if you want to use that at the end of the day to kind of like shut your brain down from work, or before bed to get out any lingering or nagging thoughts, that could be a really effective technique or activity. Then listing out just anything that stresses you. It might be things that you're doing tomorrow, so like a to-do list. Yeah, just getting it all out on paper, hopefully free up space in your mind, and you can always come back to it later on if it's something that you need to bring back into the forefront of your mind so you can start making moves on that. Also, writing a letter that you'll never send, and then letting everything go. So, closing the journal, ripping up your list of stress, crumpling up that letter and putting in the recycle. Something to physically signal to your brain that we have worried, we have let it out, and now let's make space for other things. And I'm also a big proponent of a really good cry. Sometimes you just need to let it happen. And crying releases endorphins. It helps to process those stress hormones out of the body. And chances are, when you come out of the other end, you feel a little bit better. And then you can start making steps towards whatever you need to do. Then it's changing that perspective. Again, asking things like, where have you succeeded if this is a problem that you're trying to solve? You have succeeded in so many things in your past. That's why you're here today. It's because of all of your accumulation of successes. So even write them all down on a piece of paper, and you can use that as a little like pep talk list for when you need it. Remind yourself of all of the good things that you can do, taking small steps towards your goals, but also instead of, or if you catastrophize things, because sometimes that happens, catching yourself in that moment and then asking, what if it goes right? Because as we can ruminate on things that go wrong, if we shift our mindset more to think about things that are going right, it helps align your brain with that mindset, and it'll look for more things to help it go right, because your brain wants to be right. So catch yourself. And then what would you say to your best friend? What would you say to a member of your family? And then telling that to yourself. I know that could be weird. We don't feel like we have that same space to tell ourselves like we have the skills, we can do it, but why not? So for practices that you can use in the moment, being stressed out and trying to regain focus can be a challenge, and controlling your breath is a really powerful way to do that. Stress, as we talked about, is a physiological process as well, and controlling something that your breath, like your breath, directly changes your body chemistry, which is really cool. When we're stressed, chances are that the breaths that you're taking are kind of short and shallow. And as we've probably seen in like movies, the picture of someone hyperventilating, those short, really like sporadic breaths, what it does is it increases the concentration of carbon dioxide in our blood. And that concentration change can increase feelings of anxiety, increase your heart rate. And so by controlling the breath, lengthening those exhales, we're able to off gas that carbon dioxide and increase the oxygenation of our blood so we can stimulate that vagus nerve, which helps to regulate our rest and digest. breathing can help to directly reduce heart rate, blood pressure, and increase your emotional regulation and concentration and focus. Does anyone do any breath exercises? Yeah, very nice. What do you like to use? Diaphragmatic breathing, super calming. I'll walk us through a really quick breathing exercise, but to explain them first, diaphragmatic breathing, you're taking a breath using the full expanse of your lungs. And this is not something that we typically do naturally, but is really great to use in times of stress. Then we have box breathing, and this concentrates on holding each stage of the breath cycle for the same count. And we'll practice this with a count of 4 as a great way to start off. But that inhale, the pause at the top between your inhale and exhale, and then the pause at the bottom as well. Breathing in tens is a little bit akin to box breathing in that you're counting. So in box breathing, one of the great benefits is to refocus your mind by concentrating on the counts. And so breathing intense, you also are concentrating on the counts. But for your inhales, count as 1, exhales, count as 1, all the way up to 10, and then all the way back down to 1, which seems very simple and can be really simple on some days, but also on others, it can be a little bit of a challenge. And then a physiological sigh is taking a really big inhale, and then at the very top of your inhale, pausing for a second, taking in just one more sip of air, and then sighing everything out. And that really big sigh helps to stimulate that vagus nerve and is really calming and centering. All right, so if you would like to join us in practicing really quick breathing exercises, then I invite you to settle in your seat, get really comfortable. You might close your eyes, bring that awareness inward, or you can lower your gaze down in front of you slightly, and then concentrate on your breathing, just easy breaths in and easy breaths out without any restriction, feeling the temperature of the air as you inhale and the warmth and moisture as you exhale, feeling the support of the chair beneath you, your back against the backrest, and settling into your body and into the present moment. You might put one hand on your belly, one hand on your chest to feel the way your lungs expand. And we'll start with a diaphragmatic breath. So emptying out the air on your exhale. And on your inhale, imagine the air going towards the bottom of your belly, moving your hand and filling up through your ribs, up to the top of your chest, and then releasing slowly in reverse from your chest, lowering the shoulders, exhaling through the sides and the ribs, and then emptying out all of the air from the bottom of your belly, bringing that bottom hand inward. Inhaling again, directing the air down to the belly, moving that hand, filling up through your ribs and your diaphragm, all the way to the top of your chest, maybe raising your shoulders a little, pausing at the top, then exhaling in reverse from your chest, from your diaphragm, from your ribs, and then emptying out from the very bottom of your belly, returning your breath back to normal. Easy inhales and exhales. Box breathing is a really good practice that you can use even in the moment. You can use it even while you're having conversations that might feel a little bit activating. But in times like these, where we feel grounded, maybe less stressed, engaging in breathing exercises like this helps to develop that mind to body connection and makes this process more efficient and easier to recall in the times that we are stressed and we need it most. So on your inhale, inhale slow for 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause at the top for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. And do a round on your own, concentrating on the count. Thinking about your breath and keeping your mind focused. Now we'll transition to breathing in tens. Counting your breaths up to 10. And then down to 1. And if your mind starts to wander, that's totally normal. And when it comes to a practice in breathing and mindfulness, we even expect it. Notice those thoughts, acknowledge them, and the practice really is letting them pass. Knowing that you can always come back to it later. On your next exhale, emptying everything out. And then take a really, really big inhale. Maybe the biggest breath that you've taken all day. And then pause at the top. Take in one more sip of air, expanding those lungs, and then sigh everything out. Letting the sigh massage your chest, release anxiety. Then one more time, take a big breath in. Fill your lungs, pause at the top. Taking one more sip of air. And then let everything go. Gently blink your eyes open. Come back to center. And if you practice that with us, reflect on how you felt before and notice if there's any changes that you feel now after. Other ways to help refocus your mind and anchor yourself to the here and now is to practice grounding. And so that's engaging your senses, letting yourself concentrate on other things around you to kind of like pull you out of a thought spiral or gazing into the future, things that we can't necessarily affect right now. So the 5 sense method, you're utilizing all of those, picking out things you can see, hear, feel, maybe the support of the ground, the fabric of the clothes, and then things that you could smell and taste, and maybe even inviting your own senses to this process as well. So maybe you can't smell anything because the air is clear, but can you go outside and smell the redwoods? Or can you eat like a hard candy and bring your mind back into the current present moment with inciting that taste? And then going outside, taking a walk, experiencing awe, like appreciating the sun, and all the good things in life. Next, we have building immunity and being social, getting that support from each other, even inspiring a culture of wellness with the folks in your life. Connecting with others helps to decrease stress. You may be sharing experiences, and that can also help to increase your emotional well-being, help you feel more stable. And if you're able to feel vulnerable and share feelings with people you feel safe with, that can help to decrease feelings of loneliness. But if you're trying to inspire more positivity, you can laugh with each other, talk about the good things that are happening in life, and celebrate each other's successes. And this has been extensively studied, and it's found that talking to your friends, your families, your colleagues, and even your pets all can really help to cultivate that state of well-being. So you can take breaks with each other and take walks, lunch dates, or even if you want to connect with others that you haven't seen in a long time, take a phone call or even run errands. And for the habits that you're trying to develop or the skills that you are looking into, find yourself an accountability buddy and finding a community to support the changes that you make or the things that you do, is it's not only a layer of accountability, but it helps you to be more successful. And to bring it back to opening your consciousness up to your greater community, you can do things like volunteering, and helping other folks can also really help to reduce stress in your life too. Now we have our healthy habits section because addressing the emotional side of stress is one side of it, but also the things that you do in your regular life to support your body also supports your mind. So getting enough sleep and restful sleep directly impacts stress. Doing things like creating a relaxing bedtime routine or even a ritual out of it can help to calm your mind before you go to bed. Then moving your bodies in any which way that feels good for you. It can be exercise. It doesn't have to be exercise. The research shows that there are benefits to improving mental health with movement, less than the typical recommendations of 150 minutes, moderate intensity activity. You don't need to do all of that. It's good to work up to it, but as far as mental health goes, you can start with just 2 minutes of movement, whether it be walking, whether it be dancing, just anything to get your body moving around. Then eating nutritious foods, especially at regular times, because feeling hungry is real and it can be really impactful. So, also adding enough vegetables and fruits because being nourished with enough carbohydrates for your brain health, protein, and fats is really important to keep your body going, but also getting in enough micronutrients, not only for physical health, but for your brain functioning too. And then something I always like to say is to treat yourself like a plant. If we have any plant people here, plant nope. Even if you're not a plant person, because they just kind of wither in your care, if you're like myself, treating yourself like a plant can be really helpful too. So, like going outside, getting some sun. You can't photosynthesize, but you can stimulate some vitamin D production, which is really good for your brain, and drinking enough water. Your body is mostly water, your brain is suspended in water, and also all of your blood is made by water. And so make sure you drink enough because you can think more clearly, and even at slight levels of dehydration, then we start to see kind of like dips in cognitive functioning. And then lastly, schedule time for breaks, especially if you're a calendar person. If you have any tips on what you like to do in your breaks, schedule breaks. If you can go for like a 30-second walk, breathe in and out for 1 round, treat your break, even if it's just a micro break, just like your job. So it doesn't have to take a lot of time, but those periods of rest are important for mental rejuvenation and also making time for fun too. So you're doing things that also like fill your cup back up. So now we just have a bunch of ideas that you might try. Eating breakfast, practicing gratitude. Screen time is also highly associated with stress. So maybe don't read news the first thing in the morning, and optimizing social media. So what I mean by that is like unfollowing things that don't make you feel good or accounts, and then interacting with posts that are positive, that make you feel good about yourself, and maybe also setting time limits on your phone to kick you out so you don't get stuck in like a doom scroll. And then taking those quick moments to check in. So you can even think of your breaks as like micro breaks, check-in moments to kind of like ask yourself questions, assess what you need, and also creating an end of work ritual. But yeah, do you have any other ideas that you might add to the list? Yeah, singing, breathing, and it also kind of serves like a side, like massages that vagus nerve and can help you feel more calm. Yeah, it's tough, especially if this is not already incorporated into your day. But just think about like the very bare minimum that you can do, and that makes it a lot more feasible. So that does bring us to building your own routine. You can scan the QR code and don't hold yourself to thinking of like this really big, elaborate thing. But think about, where does it live in your day? Kind of like everything in your kitchen has a place that it lives. And you can fit that into your day as well. So by sandwiching your meetings with a little bit of extra time, what's something you can fit into your morning maybe, or when you are feeling stressed, or while you're here at work, and phrasing that in such a way where you're saying, when A, which is whatever cue, then B, I will da da da. It's an implementation intention. So using the example of sandwiching your meetings with time, when I schedule a meeting, then I will also add a little bit of a buffer on either side. And so if it works, reward yourself. And so that like enforces your brain that you're doing a great job, and continue to do that. But if it doesn't happen, just approach it without any judgments. Use that as like a data point, and you can adjust it where you need to. Did any ideas come to mind outside of the ones that we fit already? Walking has come up. Is there a time of day? A phone-free morning, a phone-free like 10, 15 minutes after getting up. Yes. So beneficial. But breaking that habit, like it might take a little bit of practice. But you are all in this wonderful group, women in STEM, being able to come together and talk about things like this, and maybe put on your calendar and inviting the group to like a 15-minute walk, but having that reminder too, all ideas. And then there's also some resources that are provided by the UC as well, because stress management and the things you do are one thing, but also you can help to develop new tools, gain some new resources through our health insurance plans. So all of the UC insurance plans have mental health benefits. A lot of insurance plans will also have wellness resources as kind of like an extra. So you might have access to some stress management apps, or informational webinars, classes, that sort of thing. Then there's also the Employee Assistance Program by ComPsych. This is primarily marketed as like short-term counseling, which is amazing if you have something that you like want to work through in the short term. But there's also a lot of resources for other different areas of your life, like finding childcare or elder care if you're caring for aging parents. But they've also like mentioned that they used it for helping to plan travel or vacations. And there's also resources and classes and webinars that you can join too from ComPsych. So many things. And then we also have access to wellness coaching from On the Margins. And so developing goals in mind and then mapping a route so you can work towards those goals. Really impactful and can be insightful too. Then there's also, of course, stress management apps. Insight Timer is one of the most popular ones for mindfulness, but there's also Calm and Headspace. And then Happify is an app where you can develop those like positive psychology sort of skills. So thank you for joining. If you have any other ideas, you can share with each other, ask each other like things that you do, invite each other on walks or activities, what have you. Think of something really small that you can do today to start off with and see how that goes.